Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today's question is, can I analyze the Netflix series Baby Reindeer and the Piers Morgan interview with Fiona Harvey? Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video, only speculating about what could be happening in a situation like this. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, subscribe to my channel, and consider supporting me on Patreon. I will put the link to Patreon in the description for this video. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to a summary of the series, a summary of Fiona's interview with Piers Morgan, and finally, to my analysis. In April 2024, Netflix released a 7-episode series titled Baby Reindeer. The series is supposed to be the true story of a comedian named Richard Gadd. It recounts how he was stalked by a woman he met in a pub where he worked. A woman named Fiona Harvey has come forward and claimed that she is the woman depicted in the series, although she denies being a stalker. Richard plays the lead character, a fictionalized version of himself named Donnie Dunn. The stalker, Martha Scott, is played by the actress Jessica Gunning. Here is a summary of the series. Spoiler alert for Baby Reindeer. In 2015, Donnie Dunn was in his 20s and living in London. While struggling to build a career as a comedian, he worked in a Camden Town pub. One day, Martha Scott entered the pub and sat down. After she expressed that she could not afford to order anything, Donnie gave her a free cup of tea. Martha told Donnie that she was a wealthy attorney and knew all kinds of famous people. Donnie recognized that this didn't make any sense. If Martha was wealthy, why couldn't she afford to buy anything at the pub? Martha started coming by the pub frequently and telling all kinds of stories to Donnie. She became flirtatious and developed nicknames for him, including Baby Reindeer. Donnie started receiving hundreds of emails a day from Martha, which made him nervous. Despite this, he took her out for coffee, but regretted his decision when Martha made a scene in public. Curious about her situation, Donnie followed her home to a public housing unit and looked through her window. Martha saw him and he ran away, but she interpreted this as a sign that their relationship was progressing toward romance. On one occasion, when Donnie was performing on stage in a comedy competition, Martha showed up uninvited and became disruptive. She told Donnie that she loved him and was not receptive to his rejection, which followed. Donnie found out that Martha was a convicted stalker, but still accepted a friend request from her on Facebook. The stalking behavior only became worse, and Donnie found himself in unfamiliar territory. He was intrigued by Martha, but also kind of frightened of her. As all this was going on, Donnie was dating a transgender psychotherapist named Terry, who encouraged him to contact the police. Donnie refused because he did not recognize Martha as dangerous. On one occasion, Martha followed Donnie, pushed him against a wall, and groped him. After Donnie threatened to call the police, Martha stopped showing up at the pub and switched to a different tactic. She sat for hours, both day and night, at a bus stop across from Donnie's residence. Eventually, Martha stopped doing this, and there was a brief period of peace for Donnie. It ended when Martha interrupted another comedy show and later attacked Terry. Donnie went to the police to report Martha, but then, after thinking back to his earlier experiences in life, including being the victim of an assault of a sexual nature, he supplied an unconvincing report to the authorities. Later, Terry convinced him to report Martha to the police again, and a no-contact order against Martha was put in place. Donnie discovered that Martha had been harassing his parents, but found himself in trouble after trying to frame her for violating the no-contact order. Martha attacked Donnie in the pub, but Donnie failed to pursue charges. During the final round of the comedy competition, Donnie fell apart on stage. He told the audience about many of his negative experiences and walked out. Donnie's outburst had an unintended effect. It went viral, and his comedy career started moving forward. Martha continued to harass Donnie and was eventually arrested. She was sentenced to 9 months in prison, and Donnie never saw her again. Even though the series did not use anyone's real name, it didn't take long for people to identify 58-year-old Fiona Harvey as the stalker depicted in the series. As I mentioned, Fiona came forward and said the Stalker character, Martha Scott, was based on her. On May 9, 2024, a Piers Morgan interview of Fiona was released. She was able to tell her side of the story. Here is a summary of that interview. Fiona did not watch the Baby Reindeer series, but she has heard about it from various sources. She was not happy about how she was depicted, denied being a stalker, and claimed that she received death threats. She was now the victim. She is convinced that Richard has mental health problems, including psychosis. The series is a work of fiction. She only met Richard 5 or 6 times in her entire life. She never saw him looking through the window of a residence. At no point in her life was she in prison. And Fiona did have a toy reindeer, which was the inspiration for the title, Baby Reindeer. Piers Morgan pointed out that Fiona allegedly sent 41,000 emails, 48 Facebook messages, 744 tweets, and 106 letters to Richard. She also left him 350 voicemails. Fiona said that she may have sent a couple of emails, 18 tweets, and 1 letter. She seemed to waver a little bit during the interview on the topic of communications. She doubted she had sent that number of voicemails, and even if she did, other bad acts featured in the series were not true. Fiona claimed that she knew high-status people, like attorneys, and she would be suing Netflix, Richard, and others for defamation, but she was not sure when she would be suing. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. From the beginning, Netflix should have known that Fiona Harvey would be identified as the Martha Scott character. They used her messages to Richard verbatim, even including the misspellings. Furthermore, how many former attorneys are there who went to prison for stalking and match Fiona's physical description? If Netflix made the series believing that Fiona would never be identified, their critical thinking skills need some work. At one point, Richard sent out a message on social media asking people not to try to figure out who Martha Scott was. This request is irrational. He just about guaranteed that people would identify her. Item number 2. The series Baby Reindeer was entertaining, dark, and disturbing all at the same time. It was really an exploration of the Donnie Dunn character more than anything else. How his experiences led him to feel sorry for Martha and not report her to the authorities promptly. The situation is an example of inaccurate empathy. The Donnie Dunn character did not really understand how Martha was feeling, but he thought he did. He could not get inside the mind of the stalker. Rather, he saw his own shortcomings and pain reflected in Martha's behavior. Rejecting Martha made Donnie feel badly. In essence, by not rejecting her immediately, Donnie was trying to protect himself. Also, Donnie did not understand how badly Martha would misinterpret his various gestures, including compliments. He gave her the benefit of the doubt to an extreme. Despite being quite different, the two main characters, Donnie and Martha, did have a few traits in common. They were both troubled, confused, unaware of their own motives, and unable to maintain boundaries. Item number 3. What could have been going on with the character Martha as far as her personality? This is just a theory, my opinion. Martha appeared to have a few borderline histrionic, narcissistic, and dependent personality traits. She was afraid of abandonment, needy, attention-seeking, talkative, shallow, and grandiose. She would communicate a lot of information to Donnie, even though he couldn't track what she was revealing. Like she would talk about people he didn't know as if he did know them. Martha was manipulative in a simple, direct manner. She threw temper tantrums and used brute force tactics to get her way. There was a lack of insight present in Martha. She did not appreciate subtlety, humor, or abstract representations. Her social skills did not allow her to pick up on when people were being sarcastic or witty. Martha had difficulty telling the truth and wanted Donnie to believe that she was wealthy, successful, and well-connected. She threw around the names of high-status people. Item number 4. What type of stalker was Martha? Stalking behavior is often divided into 5 types. intimacy stalker, incompetent suitor, rejected stalker, resentful stalker, and predatory stalker. It is not unusual for any particular stalker to have characteristics from two different types, but Martha's behavior aligns with all the types except for incompetent suitor. No romantic relationship ever existed, and Martha desperately wanted there to be one, as if she was destined to be with Donnie. This fits with intimacy stalker. Martha tried to get revenge on Donnie for pushing her away, like a rejected stalker. She intimidated and terrorized Donnie, which is consistent with a resentful stalker, and she acted like a predatory stalker when she attacked Donnie. Given that she pulled behaviors from several different types of stalker, Martha was particularly dangerous. There was no way to know what she was going to do next. Item number 5. Did Fiona Harvey do herself any favors during the interview with Piers Morgan? Was she telling the truth? Here are my thoughts on this. When a person looks at the interview with Piers Morgan, they will have one of three possible reactions. The first one is to believe that Fiona was telling the truth, which means that Netflix and Richard defamed her. This is hard to believe considering Netflix probably has an army of attorneys who review the work they produce. It's almost impossible to believe that they would have been fine making the series without seeing evidence of the 41,000 emails and other communications. The second possible reaction is to believe that Fiona was being deceptive to obtain some type of material gain, not lying based on a lack of insight or extreme personality traits. Rather, she knew exactly what she was doing and why she was doing it. There was a sneaky and manipulative component to the behavior. The third reaction is to believe that Fiona was lying, but this deceptive behavior was based on extreme personality traits. This was a person who was suffering from mental health concerns, not someone who truly understood their own motives. Essentially, an individual who was lying in such an obvious way that she would elicit pity more so than anger from people who were watching. It is reasonable to believe that the third reaction was the most common among viewers. There is little question that Fiona was being deceptive. She wavered on some of her denials and exhibited the same bragging behavior as seen in the Martha character. For example, she talked about how she knew a number of attorneys. The question becomes, why was she being deceptive? Where did that behavior come from? Is this a person who should be judged harshly, or a person who's crying for help? I find it curious that the most common reaction to the Piers Morgan interview with Fiona was the same reaction illustrated by Richard Gadd in the series Baby Reindeer. He felt sorry for Martha. He may not have fully understood why he had pity on her, but that was the overriding emotion. Offensive behavior, even if it's stalking, can reveal such a level of pain, anguish, desperation, and sadness that it causes others to feel compassion for the perpetrator. This exposes a strange dynamic. If a person is a little bit of a stalker, people consider them to be a monster. If their stalking behavior is over the top and aligns with mental health symptoms, they are viewed as damaged and in need of assistance. Maybe that's the primary takeaway from Baby Reindeer. Just because stalkers are scary and destructive doesn't mean that society should abandon them. They may be wild like reindeer, but they are also helpless like a baby. Those are my thoughts on the Baby Reindeer series and the Piers Morgan interview with Fiona Harvey. Please put any opinions and thoughts in the comment section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. As always, I hope you found my analysis of this topic to be informative. Thanks for watching.